The coffee was still hot when the girl grabbed his sleeve. Owen Mercer did not hear her coming. He rarely heard anything clearly anymore. Not since the surgery. Not since the specialist in Halifax had used words like irreversible and progressive, and watched Owen's face the way doctors do when they already know which part of the sentence did the most damage. He moved with a cane now, white-tipped, and he moved carefully, the way a man moves when he has recently learned that the world is larger and less predictable than he once believed. He had been standing on the corner of Elgin and Laurier, waiting for the light signal that he knew by sound, the rapid clicking that meant walk, the pause that meant don't. The October air off the Ottawa River had a sharpness to it that morning. He could smell the canal. He could hear the early buses, the particular hiss of their brakes, the low announcement of stops through tinny speakers. What he could not see was the delivery truck that had mounted the curb. The hand caught him first. Small fingers, surprisingly strong, closing around the fabric of his coat just below the elbow. Then a voice, low, almost private, like someone whispering in a library. "Mister, you need to move." He moved. He didn't think about it. Something in the voice made him step back without question, 2 steps, then 3, and the truck passed so close that the side mirror caught the air near his ear. When Owen turned toward the voice, he could make out only the shape of her. Slight, short, maybe 10 or 11 years old, wearing something dark. The details he could no longer gather the way he once had. "Thank you," he said. He said it the way he had learned to say things since the diagnosis, carefully meaning it, not filling silence with noise. She didn't answer right away. "You should wait for the beeping one," she said. "Not the clicking one. The clicking one on that corner is broken. It goes even when the truck light is green." He stood very still. "How do you know that? I wait on this corner a lot." Owen reached into his coat pocket, instinct, the old reflex of a man who had spent 30 years practicing corporate law and believed that problems had solutions and solutions cost something. He found a 20. "I don't want that," she said before he had even extended his hand. He put it back. "What's your name?" he asked. A pause. Not a child's shy pause. Something older than that. "June. June. My name is Owen." He shifted his cane to his left hand and extended his right. She shook it. Her grip was brief and oddly formal, like someone who had been taught the gesture but hadn't had many opportunities to practice it. "Are you going somewhere, June?" Not really. The light changed. The correct signal beeped. He knew it now. Would know it from this moment on. He started across the street and she walked beside him without being asked. At the other side, he stopped. "Where do you sleep?" he asked. She didn't seem alarmed by the question. "Different places. There's a spot under the Mackenzie King Bridge that's okay when it's not too cold. There's a lady at the shelter on Waller who lets me in early sometimes, before the official time." He absorbed this. In his previous life, which was what he had begun calling the years before the surgery, he might have heard that sentence and already been composing a response, planning the exit from the conversation, calculating how much a donation to the right organization would allow him to feel he had done something. He was aware of this about himself. His therapist, a quiet woman named Dr. Brennan, who worked out of a house on Glebe Avenue, had helped him become aware of several such things over the past 14 months. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Another pause. "Yes," she said. Not eagerly, just honestly. They went to a diner on Somerset. Owen had been there before the surgery and still knew where the booth was, still knew the menu by memory. He asked the server, a man named Paul who recognized Owen's voice, to read the day's specials aloud. June ordered eggs with brown toast and a glass of milk, and then added quietly, "And could I get an orange juice too?" And then immediately said, "Sorry, never mind." And Owen said both, and that was the end of it. She ate steadily, without the performance of hunger that he had somehow expected. No wolfish rush, no embarrassment. She ate the way someone eats when food is a serious thing. "You don't go to school?" he asked when she had finished the eggs. "I used to." "What happened?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My mom got sick, and then she got more sick, and then things happened fast and I kind of ended up outside of everything." She said it, simply, the way you describe a weather event, as though the tragedy of it was so large she had long since stopped trying to frame it as a tragedy. It was just the shape her life had taken. Owen set down his cup. "How long ago?" 8 months, maybe 9. He thought about 8 or 9 months. He thought about what he had been doing 8 or 9 months ago. The physio appointments, the orientation and mobility training, the long mornings sitting in his kitchen on Clemau Avenue listening to the house make sounds he had never noticed before. He thought about how quickly a life could change its shape. "Do you have any other family?" he asked. "An aunt in Sudbury." "But we don't really know each other. Would you be willing to talk to someone? A social worker, someone who could help find a proper placement?" She looked at him. He could feel the direction of her gaze even if he couldn't read her expression. "People keep saying that," she said. And then the placement is somewhere with a lock on the fridge and a list of rules on the wall, and you share a room with 3 other kids and nobody looks at you when you talk. Owen was quiet. I'm not saying that's every place, she added, not unkindly. But that was my experience. He nodded. He didn't argue with her experience. They sat for a moment. Paul came by and refilled Owen's coffee without being asked the way he always did. Do you ever read? Owen asked. I used to like reading. What kind of things? She considered. Stories where someone is in a bad situation and then figures a way out of it. Not because someone rescues them. Because they figure it out themselves. Owen said nothing for a moment. Then he said, those are the best kind. He paid. They was just outside on the sidewalk. The October light was low, and he could feel it on his face, warm and thin the way late-season sun feels in eastern Ontario. I have a large house, he said, on Clemau. It has a room that no one uses. It has a kitchen where there is always food. I am not offering this because I feel sorry for you. He stopped. I'm offering it because you very possibly saved my life this morning, and because I don't know what else is the right thing to do, and because I think you are someone who would tell me honestly if this was a bad idea. June was silent. Is it a bad idea? He asked. She thought about it for longer than most people would have. He respected that. It might be, she said. I don't know you. You're right. Can I think about it? You can think about it. I'll be here tomorrow morning at the same corner at 8 o'clock. If you want to meet me, meet me. If you don't, I understand. She was gone before he finished speaking. He heard her footsteps, light, quick, and then the sound of the street swallowed them. He took the 7 bus home. He sat by the window out of old habit, listening to the city passes. She was at the corner at 5 to 8 the next morning. He heard her before he reached her, the small sound of someone shifting weight from foot to foot against the cold. She had a backpack with her. It was a school bag, blue and slightly broken at one strap, with a keychain shaped like a maple leaf hanging off the zipper. He could just make out the shape of it when she held it up. I brought my things, she said. Is that okay? That's exactly right, he said. His house on Clemau Avenue was 3 stories, brick, with a pine tree in the front yard that Owen could identify by the way the wind moved through it differently than the maples on either side. He had lived there for 19 years. His ex-wife, Catherine, had helped choose it. Their son, Elliot, had grown up in the room on the 2nd floor with the dormer window. Elliot was in Vancouver now, working in sustainable architecture, calling on Sundays with the slightly careful voice of a son who loves his father, but doesn't quite know how to love his father's new life. Owen opened the front door with the key he could still find by touch and stepped aside. June stood in the entrance hall. He could hear her breathing change, the quiet intake of someone encountering warmth after cold, encountering space after scarcity. The room, he said, is up the stairs, 2nd door on the right. There's a lamp on the desk that has a switch on the cord. The bathroom is at the end of the hall. There are clean towels in the cabinet above the toilet. She went upstairs. He heard her footsteps overhead. Slow, deliberate, as though she was measuring the room with her steps. After a few minutes, she came back down. It has a window seat, she said. It does, with cushions. My ex-wife picked them out. I was told the color was sage. I'll take her word for it. June made a sound that was almost a laugh, not quite, the edge of one. She put her backpack in the corner of the kitchen while Owen made tea. She sat at the table and watched him move through the space, the precise economy of his movements, the way he knew exactly where the kettle was, and exactly where the mugs hung, and exactly how many steps separated the counter from the table. You're good at knowing where things are, she said. I've had to practice. Does it make you angry? That you have to? No one had asked him that so directly. His friends asked obliquely. His therapist asked carefully. His son didn't ask. Sometimes, he said. Less than it used to. She nodded, though he couldn't see her nod. He heard the small shift of it. He called Dr. Brennan that afternoon. She helped him find a social worker named Colette, who specialized in youth in precarious situations, and who had, according to Dr. Brennan, both competence and patience, which she said were rarer together than they should be. Colette came to the house 2 days later. She sat across from June at the kitchen table and asked questions in a plain, unrushy way. And June answered them in the same register. And at the end, Colette said that there were processes, but that processes could work if the right people were involved, and that she would be in touch. After Colette left, June stood by the kitchen window for a moment. She was okay, June said. Good. She didn't look at you while I was talking. She looked at me. That matters, Owen said. Yes, June said, it does. The days organized themselves into a shape neither of them had planned. Owen rose at 6:30 and made coffee. June came down sometime between 7 and 7:30, usually already dressed, and ate whatever she decided to make, which turned out to be competent and unsurprising. Toast, cereal, the occasional scrambled egg. She was not a child who needed to be told to do things. She did the dishes after herself. She did the dishes after herself. She turned the lights off when she left a room. On the third day, Owen found one of his audiobooks paused in the kitchen, a biography of Lester Pearson he had been working through, and realized she had been listening to it. He didn't mention it. The next morning, he left it unpaused on the counter. She started leaving notes, small ones, on paper torn from a grocery pad. Your plant in the hall is dry. Or, there was a phone call. Someone named Gerald from your office. He said it wasn't urgent, but his voice sounded like he thought it was. Or, one morning that he found particularly difficult to explain. I think the pine tree is okay. I watched it in the rain last night. It does fine in the rain. He kept them. He couldn't have said why exactly. He put them in the drawer by the phone. 3 weeks after June arrived, Owen's former law partner, a man named Broadhurst, came for dinner. Broadhurst had opinions about many things, and he arrived with a bottle of wine and the particular energy of someone who had decided in advance to be concerned. Owen, Broadhurst said, in the low register he used for significant statements, I have to say something. You usually do, Owen said. This situation with the girl, I'm not sure you've thought through the implications. I've thought through quite a few of them. There are legal considerations. There are liability considerations. People will what? Broadhurst stopped. People will have questions, he said, more quietly. Then they'll have questions, Owen said. I've spent 30 years answering other people's questions about difficult situations. I'm comfortable with it. Broadhurst stayed for dinner. June sat across from him and was not rude and was not particularly warm, and at one point Broadhurst asked her what she wanted to do when she grew up, and she said, without hesitation, something where I can think for myself. And Broadhurst laughed despite himself, and after that the evening went somewhat better. In November, Colette found a legal arrangement, a supported guardianship, transitional, with a review date in the spring. Owen's lawyer, a woman named Taggart who had known him for 12 years, helped with the documentation. Elliot called from Vancouver on a Tuesday night, and Owen told him, quietly and thoroughly, and there was a long silence on the line. Dad, Elliot said finally, are you happy? Owen thought about the question. I think I'm useful, he said. Which is close. Is that enough? Owen thought about the October corner. The broken signal. The hand on his sleeve. Right now it is, he said. June did not talk about her mother often. When she did, it was sideways. A detail dropped into a different conversation. The way you mention a thing when you've been carrying it a while and need to set it down briefly. Once, in December, she said, my mom used to make tea by leaving the bag in too long. She said she liked it strong, but I think she just forgot about it. Owen said, my mother did the same thing. June looked at him. What was she like? Impatient with most things, patient with the things that mattered. Terrible at apologies. Very good at showing up. June nodded slowly. My mom was bad at showing up, she said, but when she did show up, she was really there. Owen said, that counts. She looked at him for a moment. Do you think so? I do. She went back to the book she was reading. She had developed a habit of reading in the chair by the hall window, where the afternoon light came in longest. He could hear the particular silence of someone reading. He didn't move for a while. He just listened to the house. By February, June was attending a school 4 blocks away. She had been resistant at first. Not afraid, exactly, but careful in the way of someone who has been disappointed by institutions. Owen did not push. He mentioned it once and then waited. One morning she came downstairs and said, I think I'll go look at that school. And he said, I'll walk with you if you want. And she said, okay. The vice principal, a man named Tobin, had been briefed by Colette. He showed them both around, addressing Owen with the correct and unremarkable courtesy that Owen had come to recognize in people who were good at their work. And when they were done, June stood in the front hall and looked at the gym, where someone was setting up badminton nets. I used to play that, she said. They practice Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tobin said. She started the following Monday. She did not become a different child. She did not unfold into cheerfulness or shed the watchfulness she had developed over 8 months of surviving outside other people's awareness. But something shifted, gradually, the way light shifts in a room when the season changes, so slowly you don't notice until you suddenly see the room differently. She started coming home and saying things without being asked. A girl named Priya had said something funny at lunch. Their history teacher was very loud, but actually knew a lot about the Métis resistance. She had been assigned a project on the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and she thought one part of it was interesting and one part of it was confusing. Owen listened. He asked questions. He did not editorialize. One evening in March, she came to the door of his study, where he was working through contracts by audio software, and said, Can I ask you a law question? You can ask me anything. If a person is a minor and they sign something, is it binding? He asked her why she wanted to know. She explained. Carefully, logically. that she had been reading about something that had happened to a family in her class, a situation involving a lease that a 17-year-old had signed without understanding. He spent 45 minutes explaining contract law to a 12-year-old. She asked better questions than most articling students. When she left the room, he sat for a while. He thought about his practice. He thought about the years of contracts and negotiations and the way he had been good at it, genuinely good at it. Not just technically, but the part of it where you had to understand what people actually wanted, underneath what they said they wanted. He had been afraid after the diagnosis that that part of himself was finished, that usefulness required sight. He picked up his phone and asked it to call Elliot. "Dad, everything okay?" "Yes," Owen said. "Everything is fine. I just wanted to say, the thing you asked me back in November, whether it was enough." "Yeah, I think it might be more than enough," he said. "I think I've been wrong about what enough looks like." A pause on the line. "Good," Elliot said quietly. "That's really good, Dad." The spring review came in April. Colette attended. Owen's lawyer Taggart attended. A representative from the Provincial Youth Services Office named Henderson attended and asked thorough questions in a way that was professional without being unkind. June sat at the table and answered for herself when she was asked, which was most of the time. Afterward, in the car on the way home, Colette driving, Owen in the passenger seat, June in the back, no one said anything for several blocks. June said, "That went okay, I think." "It did," Colette said. "Henderson asked me if I felt safe," June said. "I said yes, I meant it." Owen said nothing. He looked out the window at the blur of spring light he could just perceive, the shapes of the city going past. "I want to visit my aunt in Sudbury," June said. "At some point. Not to go live there, just to see what she's like." "We can arrange that," Owen said. "I want to go on my own terms." "That's the right way," he said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The pine tree has new growth on it. I noticed this morning. The little bright green tips." "I don't know what those look like," Owen said. "They're lighter than the rest. Like the tree is trying something new at the ends." He thought about that for a while. On the first warm evening in May, they sat on the back porch after dinner. The city made its evening sounds. Someone's lawnmower a few houses down. The dogs on the next street, the distant O train. June had a book. Owen had a podcast he wasn't really listening to. After a while, June said, "Do you ever regret it? Asking me to stay?" "No," Owen said, without pause, without thinking about it first. "Why not?" He thought about how to answer, not because he was uncertain, but because the answer deserved the right words. "Because before," he said, "I had a life that was very organized and very quiet and very much mine. And I thought that was what I needed after everything, and maybe it was for a time." He paused. "But a house that is only yours is a very particular kind of lonely. I didn't know that until it wasn't anymore." June was quiet. He could hear her turning a page. Then she said, "I'm going to be okay, you know. Eventually. On my own. I know I'm not going to need this forever. I know that too, but I'm glad it was here when I needed it," he said. "So am I." The pine tree moved in the late May air. Owen couldn't see it, but he heard it. The soft shift of branches. The small and constant sound of something living growing in the dark at the ends of itself, reaching, as all living things do, toward what light it could find.